Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time we're going deep, really deep, into Buddhist thought.
Sounds intense.
It is, but also surprisingly practical,
Yeah.
which is what I love about our source material today.
Let me guess. The Art of Living.
You got it, by Venerable Master Ching Kung. And it's really hitting me how much he emphasizes applying these ideas to everyday life, not just like lofty theories,
Yeah. Master Ching Kung is all about practicality, that's for sure.
which I think is perfect for our listeners because, hey, you guys are already familiar with Buddhism. You're not here for the basics.
Right, we're assuming you're past that. What we're diving into is how this stuff actually works in your life.
Exactly. And one thing that really stood out to me is, right off the bat, Master Ching Kung says Buddhism is an education, not a religion.
It's about understanding yourself, the universe,
Yeah.
not dogma,
Yeah, totally. But then he throws in this curveball. He talks about FU kinds of Buddhism: authentic, religious, philosophical, and even deviant.
Ah, yes. That's important because, like any system of knowledge, Buddhism has, well, had a lot of interpretations over the centuries.
Right. So is he saying some are just wrong?
Not necessarily wrong, but maybe missing the mark.
Mixing the mark.
Yeah, like they've strayed from those core principles that actually lead to change, real transformation.
Okay, so that's where authentic Buddhism comes in. It's about getting to the heart of what works.
Exactly. And that's where the concept of a pure mind comes in.
Yeah, cultivating a pure mind, which I gotta say sounds pretty difficult in our crazy world.
It can be, but Master Ching Kung offers some really interesting techniques for doing just that, even amidst the chaos.
He even talks about how what we eat can affect our mental clarity, like avoiding the 5 pungent vegetables.
Onions, garlic, chives, green onions, and leeks.
Seriously, no more garlic bread. That's a sacrifice.
I know, right? It might sound strange, but the idea is that those veggies, while tasty, they can kind of agitate the mind. It makes it harder to find that stillness, that peace that we're looking for.
So it's not some arbitrary rule, but about recognizing how everything we do, even what we eat, impacts our mental state.
Precisely. And it's not about deprivation, it's about making choices that support our growth.
I like that. So how do we actually start cultivating this pure mind?
Well, remember those deviant forms of Buddhism we mentioned?
Uh-huh.
Master Ching Kung seems to be pointing us back towards practices like the 6 paramitas.
Ah, the 6 paramitas, classic Buddhism. Giving, precepts, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom.
Right. He's saying these are essential for that pure mind we're talking about.
Okay, but how do those actually work in, like, everyday life? Giving, sure, I get that. But precepts, diligence, how do I do those at work,
Think about it like this. Diligence at work could mean bringing focus to each task, really dedicating yourself to doing it well.
Okay, I can see that.
And patience. That could be responding to a difficult colleague with understanding instead of just getting frustrated.
So it's like shifting our perspective on those everyday interactions.
Exactly. Seeing everything as a chance to practice, to grow.
And that's where that idea about homemakers comes in, right? Even they can be on the bodhisattva path.
That's one of my favorite parts of this text. It challenges our assumptions about who can be spiritual.
Right. Like enlightenment isn't just for monks on mountaintops.
Exactly. It's about bringing that awareness, that mindful presence to everything we do, even cooking, cleaning, caring for family.
I love that.
Yeah.
But it's not just about individual practice, right? The text talks a lot about community.
The Sangha, absolutely. One of the 3 jewels of Buddhism, along with the Buddha and the Dharma.
Right, the teaching. Okay, so we've got the 3 jewels.
Yeah.
But Master Ching Kung also lays out his 3 conditions.
Yeah, this is like his framework for how we walk the path, how we align ourselves with those jewels.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break it down for us. What are these 3 conditions all about?
The first one is all about building that foundation of ethical behavior.
Makes sense. Got to start somewhere.
But it's more than just like not stealing or killing. It's about respecting parents, teachers, all beings, really.
So setting the stage for a more mindful, compassionate life.
Yeah.
Got it. What's next?
The second condition is where we go deeper into self-cultivation. Taking refuge in the 3 jewels.
Refuge.
Yeah, like consciously choosing to align ourselves with the Buddha's enlightenment, the wisdom of the Dharma, the support of the Sangha.
Okay, so it's about more than just following the rules. It's about understanding the deeper meaning.
Exactly. And being responsible members of society, contributing to the well-being of others. It's all connected.
Okay, so we're moving from ethical conduct to, like, genuine spiritual growth. Where does the third condition take us?
The third one is all about embracing the bodhisattva path, that path of awakening driven by compassion for all beings.
Okay, so it's about going beyond personal liberation, dedicating ourselves to the well-being of everyone.
Exactly, understanding that our own awakening is interconnected with the awakening of all beings.
Wow, that's a powerful idea. So how do we actually make that happen? How do we bridge that gap between these ideals and, like, real life?
That's where Buddha name chanting comes in.
Oh, yeah, the text talks about that.
Yeah.
But isn't chanting usually associated with, like, rituals and ceremonies?
Can be. But what's cool about the art of living is it presents Buddha name chanting in a really practical way.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so?
Through the 10 recitation method, a technique that even busy people can use.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more about this 10 recitation method.
We'll dive into the specifics in the next part of our deep dive. But the basic idea is it's about weaving moments of mindfulness into your day. Not hours of chanting, just short, focused repetitions.
So, like, little reminders to reconnect with those qualities we're cultivating. Peace, wisdom, compassion. Sounds promising.
So yeah, this 10 recitation method, it's not just about squeezing a ritual into your day. It's about, like, shifting your mindset.
I see what you mean. So, like, starting your workday with those 10 repetitions instead of, that flood of emails.
Exactly. Setting an intention. Bringing those qualities of peace, wisdom, compassion into your work.
And speaking of work, the text also talks a lot about finding the right kind of work, like aligning it with our values.
Right. The concept of right livelihood. It's not just about a paycheck. It's about contributing to the world in a positive way.
So finding that sweet spot where our passions and skills actually make a difference. But how do we even know if we're on the right path? Does the text give us any clues?
It doesn't give a list, but it does point back to the 6 paramitas. Remember those?
Of course, giving, precepts, all that.
He's saying those apply to our work lives too. Diligence isn't just working hard. It's about bringing that focus to each task.
Okay, I see. Like seeing those mundane tasks as opportunities for practice.
Exactly, and patience. That could be seeing those difficult coworkers with compassion, understanding where they're coming from.
So it's about turning our work into a path of growth, not just a source of stress, almost like a secret training ground for enlightenment.
Right. I like that. But the text also cautions against, seeking personal gain in our work. Isn't that a bit unrealistic?
Yeah, in today's world, it's all about getting ahead.
Right. It's not about denying ambition. It's about shifting the motivation. Instead of just self-interest, can we act for the benefit of everyone?
So, like, expanding our circle of concern, seeing ourselves as part of something bigger, it's a nice idea, but honestly, life throws us curveballs.
Yeah.
We get attached to outcomes, we get frustrated when things don't go our way.
And that's where those teachings on impermanence and non-attachment come in.
Oh, right. Everything is constantly changing.
The art of living reminds us that clinging to things, whether it's possessions, relationships, even our ideas, it only creates suffering.
It's like trying to hold on to water, right? The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away.
Exactly. So how do we cultivate non-attachment in a world that's constantly telling us to hold on?
Yeah, good question. It seems impossible.
It's a practice, for sure. A gradual letting go. It starts with recognizing that everything is impermanent, even our thoughts and emotions.
So detaching not just from things, but from our own mental and emotional states.
Precisely. Finding that inner stillness amidst all the chaos.
That sounds amazing, but also really hard.
It is. But the text reminds us that this inner stillness is the key to ultimate happiness.
Ultimate happiness. Is that different from, like, regular happiness?
Think of it as a deep sense of peace and contentment that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It comes from understanding reality, cultivating a pure mind, living with wisdom and compassion.
So it's not something we chase, but something that arises naturally.
Exactly. It's the fruit of living in alignment with the Dharma.
Okay, I love that. So we've talked about the 10 recitation method for cultivating a pure mind, but the text also emphasizes studying the teachings. Why is that so important?
Study helps us go deeper, Clarify doubts, build a solid foundation for practice.
So the teachings are like the blueprint for a life of wisdom and compassion. Got it. But studying can feel like a chore sometimes, especially in our busy world.
The key is to connect those teachings to your own experiences.
So not just passive reading, but really engaging with the material.
Exactly. Reflect on it. Discuss it with others. See how it applies to your life. That's where it comes alive.
But let's be real. We're not all monks living in monasteries. We have families, jobs, all that stuff. How do we actually integrate these teachings into our messy lives?
Remember that idea about homemakers as bodhisattvas?
Yeah, that was inspiring.
It's a perfect example. Enlightenment isn't confined to some special place or time. It's right here, right now, in the midst of our everyday lives.
So bringing that awareness to everything we do, even the dishes, the commute, those interactions with our loved ones.
Exactly. And the text reminds us that it's a journey, not a race. Be patient, persevere, celebrate small victories.
So it's about focusing on the process, not getting hung up on being perfect.
Exactly. Every step we take towards a pure mind, a more compassionate heart, it benefits everyone.
That's a beautiful thought. So speaking of beautiful things, the text talks about Sharira.
Sharira.
Yeah, those relics that are sometimes found after highly realized Buddhist masters pass away.
Ah, yes. They're considered a manifestation of that person's purity, their spiritual attainment.
Fascinating. But why would a listener care about these relics? What do they tell us about enlightenment?
They're not meant to be worshipped or anything like that. They're more like a reminder, proof that enlightenment is possible, that transformation can happen.
So a tangible sign that the Buddha's teachings aren't just theory, they actually work.
Exactly. But the text is also careful to remind us that enlightenment isn't about seeking supernatural powers or anything like that.
It's about that inner transformation, right?
Yeah.
Cultivating wisdom, compassion, peace.
Right, and sharing those qualities with the world. Which brings us to Master Ching Kung's 5 guidelines for practice.
5 guidelines. Lay it on me.
They're like a comprehensive framework for living a life of wisdom and compassion. There's the 3 conditions, which we've already talked about.
Right, the foundation of ethical conduct, all that.
Then there's the 6 principles of harmony, the 3 learnings, the 6 paramitas, and the 10 great vows of universal worthy bodhisattva.
Okay, wow, that's a lot to digest. Let's break it down. Starting with the 6 principles of harmony. What are those all about?
Think of it as cultivating right relationships with ourselves and others. There's respect, humility, cooperation, mutual support, patience, tolerance.
Sounds like a recipe for a more peaceful world.
That's the idea. Then there's forgiveness, reconciliation, generosity, sharing, gratitude, appreciation.
So it's about cultivating these qualities in all our interactions. But let's be real. Conflict happens. People have different opinions, different values. How do we deal with that without creating more disharmony?
That's where those principles of patience, tolerance, and forgiveness really come in.
So remembering that we don't have to agree with everyone, but we can still treat each other with respect.
Exactly. Listening deeply, trying to see things from their perspective, finding common ground, choosing compassion over judgment.
I love that. But what about when we're the ones who mess up? How do we deal with our own mistakes?
That's where humility comes in. Owning our imperfections, taking responsibility, being willing to learn and grow.
So being kind to ourselves, even when we make mistakes, recognizing that we're all works in progress, right?
Exactly. We're all on this journey together. And that journey is supported by the 3 learnings, precepts, concentration, and wisdom.
Ah, yes. Ethical conduct, mental discipline, and deep understanding.
They all work together. The precepts give us that ethical foundation. Concentration helps us calm and focus the mind, and wisdom allows us to see things clearly.
So it's like a 3-legged stool. Each leg supports the others. But in our busy lives, how do we actually integrate these 3 learnings?
Remember that 10 recitation method? That's one way to cultivate concentration and mindfulness throughout the day. And reflection, contemplation, discussion, those help develop wisdom.
So weaving these practices into our daily lives, finding those moments to connect with these principles.
Exactly. And if you're wondering, am I making progress? Look to the 6 paramitas: giving, precepts, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom.
Those sound like qualities of a truly awakened being, but are we born with them or do we develop them?
The Buddha taught that everyone has the potential for these qualities. They're cultivated through practice. It's not about being perfect, but making a sincere effort.
So gradually transforming ourselves, one thought, one word, one action at a time. But let's face it, sometimes life feels like an uphill battle. We face challenges, get discouraged. How do we stay motivated on this path?
Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Embrace the process. Learn from mistakes. Celebrate those small wins along the way.
So finding joy in the journey even when it's tough, knowing that every step we take towards a purer mind benefits everyone.
And that brings us to the 10 great vows of universal worthy bodhisattva, the ultimate expression of the bodhisattva path, that path driven by compassion for all beings.
It sounds inspiring, but also a little intimidating. Are these vows for, like, everyone?
The text says the Bodhisattva path is open to everyone no matter what.
So it's not about rigidly following rules, but having aspirations, a vision for a life dedicated to the well-being of everyone.
Exactly. And remembering that even small acts of kindness make a difference.
It's all interconnected, right? Our actions have ripple effects. Even the smallest act of love can contribute to a more compassionate world.
Which brings us back to the core of the art of living. It's not about becoming superhuman, it's about transforming our everyday lives into a path of awakening.
Finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, the sacred in the mundane.
Recognizing that enlightenment isn't some far-off goal. It's a possibility that exists within each of us right here, right now.
And it's about living that possibility, embodying those qualities of wisdom, compassion, and peace in every moment.
But let's be honest, life can throw some serious punches. Challenges, setbacks, times when we wonder if it's all worth it.
How do we keep the faith when things get tough?
The path isn't always easy, that's for sure. There will be obstacles, setbacks, times of doubt.
So it's about persevering, remembering that the path is always there, even when we lose sight of it.
Exactly. And remembering that we're not alone. We have the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the teachings to guide us, the community to support us, the compassion of those who've awakened to inspire us.
So let's talk about karma for a minute. It's often misunderstood, seen as some kind of cosmic punishment reward system.
Right. But karma is really just cause and effect. Our actions, thoughts, everything has consequences.
So it's not about fate or destiny.
We're not just puppets. We have the power to shape our karma through our choices.
That's empowering. We're not just victims of circumstance. We can create a better future.
And that's where mindfulness and ethical conduct come in. By paying attention to our thoughts and actions, we can make choices that lead to happiness for ourselves and others.
So aligning our actions with our values and aspirations. Got it. But what happens when we mess up? Make choices we regret. Create negative karma.
The text talks about repentance and making amends, owning our mistakes, taking responsibility, and doing what we can to repair the harm.
So it's not about punishment, but about learning and growth.
Exactly. And the Buddha's compassion is boundless. No matter what we've done, we can always turn towards the path and start anew.
That's a relief. It means it's never too late to change our course, make amends, and create a better future.
Which brings us back to that core message of the art of living. We have the power to shape our own destiny, create a life of meaning and purpose, and contribute to a more compassionate world.
Embracing the challenges, learning from our experiences, never giving up on that aspiration for awakening. But speaking of awakening, what does that actually mean? What does it look and feel like?
It's about seeing through the illusions of the world and recognizing our true nature.
So realizing that our true nature is beyond our thoughts, emotions, experiences.
Exactly. We're already whole and complete, even if we don't always feel that way.
What are some signs of awakening?
The text mentions wisdom, compassion, peace, freedom from suffering. It's a transformed heart and mind, a life lived with wisdom and compassion.
So it's not necessarily about supernatural powers or mystical experiences.
Those might happen, but the real measure is how we live our lives.
That's inspiring. It means awakening is possible for everyone, no matter who we are or where we come from. But how do we know if we're on the right track?
The text suggests looking for signs of transformation in our daily lives. Are we becoming more patient, more understanding, letting go of anger more easily, finding joy in simple things? Those are all good indicators.
So it's not about some dramatic breakthrough, but those subtle shifts in our thoughts, feelings, actions.
Exactly. And remember, it's a gradual process. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate your progress.
Trust the process, right? With effort and a sincere heart, we will awaken to our true nature.
Absolutely. But honestly, the path can feel lonely sometimes. We face challenges, have doubts. How do we stay connected, supported?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not easy doing this alone.
That's where the Sangha comes in, the community of practitioners. It's a space for shared learning, inspiration, support.
So it's not just about individual practice. We need each other.
Buddhist practice is both individual and communal. We cultivate our own minds, but within a supportive community.
What are the benefits of practicing in a Sangha?
You can learn from others' experiences, get guidance from those who are more experienced, support each other on the path.
Like a team of cheerleaders and mentors, all helping each other grow.
Exactly. That shared purpose, that support, it's powerful. Reminds us that we're not alone.
Which is so important in today's world where it's so easy to feel isolated. But finding a Sangha that's a good fit, that could be tough.
It can be. But the text encourages us to seek out like-minded people. those who share our values and aspirations.
People who understand our journey, who can offer guidance and encouragement.
And remember, the Sangha isn't limited to formal groups. It can include friends, family, anyone who supports our aspirations for a more compassionate life.
That's a good reminder. So let's talk about rebirth. It's a concept that's often misunderstood, seen as literal reincarnation.
Rebirth is more about the continuity of consciousness, the idea that our actions and intentions create karmic imprints that shape our future experiences.
So our actions have consequences that extend beyond this lifetime.
Precisely. And that understanding can motivate us to live with more intention, more compassion.
So it's not about fearing punishment in some future life, but recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings, seeing the ripple effects of our actions.
Exactly. And the journey of awakening isn't limited to this lifetime either. It unfolds over many lifetimes. Each lifetime offers an opportunity to learn, grow, move closer to enlightenment.
I can see how that idea could be both comforting and challenging. Comforting to know we have more than one chance, but challenging to wrap our minds around the whole rebirth concept.
It definitely raises some big questions. The text doesn't offer definitive answers, but it encourages us to contemplate these things, to explore them with an open mind.
So not just blind acceptance, but engaged exploration. I like that. But let's be real, it's hard to stay in that space of wonder and possibility amidst our everyday lives.
That's why the text emphasizes mindfulness, bringing that awareness to each moment.
Paying attention, being present, appreciating the simple things, seeing the sacred in the ordinary.
Exactly. Remembering that every moment is an opportunity for awakening, a chance to connect with that wisdom and compassion within us.
But how do we cultivate mindfulness? Meditation is great, but not everyone can sit for hours every day.
Right. So the text also offers other practices, like the 10 recitation method, ways to bring mindfulness to our everyday activities.
So not escaping the world, but bringing mindfulness into everything we do.
Exactly. Transforming our everyday lives into a meditation, a practice of awakening.
But let's face it, sometimes life feels anything but peaceful. We get stressed, overwhelmed, lose our patience. How do we deal with those tough moments?
The text reminds us that challenges are inevitable. They're opportunities for growth, for learning, for cultivating compassion and wisdom.
So it's about shifting our perspective, seeing challenges not as obstacles, but as stepping stones.
Exactly. And remembering that we have the tools to navigate them skillfully. The teachings, the community, the inspiration of those who've awakened. We've got this.
That's reassuring. So let's talk about attachments. It's a central teaching, but it can feel daunting.
Yeah.
How do we let go of things that are important to us, that bring us joy?
It's not about deprivation or giving up everything we enjoy. It's about recognizing that everything is impermanent, and clinging creates suffering.
So finding a balance between enjoying things and recognizing their impermanent nature.
Exactly. True happiness doesn't come from external things. It comes from within, from that inner peace and contentment.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh.
But we live in a world that's constantly telling us to acquire more, hold on tighter. How do we resist that?
It's a practice. It starts with recognizing impermanence in everything, even our thoughts and emotions.
So detaching not just from things, but from our own mental and emotional state.
Precisely. Finding that stillness amidst the turbulence.
That inner stillness sounds like the key to ultimate happiness, which you mentioned earlier.
Right. That deep peace and contentment that doesn't depend on external circumstances.
So it's not something we chase, but something that arises naturally.
Exactly. It's the fruit of a life lived in alignment with the Dharma.
It's the fruit of a life lived in alignment with the Dharma. Which reminds me, we were talking about how even our food choices can impact our spiritual journey.
Yeah, it's interesting how Master Ching Kung brings together something as everyday as eating with cultivating a pure mind.
Right, like we were talking about those 5 pungent vegetables, onions, garlic, and all those that are supposed to agitate the mind.
Yeah, but it's not about being super strict. It's about recognizing how our choices, even what we eat, can affect us mentally and spiritually.
So making choices that help our practice makes sense.
Exactly. And it's not just what we eat, but how we eat too. Mindful eating, paying attention to the taste, the texture, appreciating the nourishment, being grateful for the food.
So like turning eating into a mindfulness practice.
Precisely. And that's what I love about the art of living. It's about finding ways to be mindful in our everyday lives, even the little things, turning everything into an opportunity for spiritual growth.
I like that. But it's hard, isn't it? To stay mindful when life gets so busy and distracting.
It is. That's why the text talks about having a daily practice, a routine that supports our growth.
So setting aside time for meditation, study, reflection,
Yeah.
like creating that space to connect with ourselves, go deeper into the teachings.
Exactly. But let's be real, not everyone can just drop everything and meditate for hours. We've got jobs, families, responsibilities.
Real life gets in the way.
That's why the text also gives us practices that fit into busy lives, like the 10 recitation method. We can do that anywhere, anytime.
So it's about finding those little pockets of time throughout the day to pause, breathe, reconnect.
Exactly. Weaving mindfulness into the fabric of our lives, making it a part of us, not just something extra we do.
I like that a lot. But, life happens. Challenges, setbacks, those times when we question everything. How do we stay on the path when it's tough?
The text reminds us that the path to enlightenment isn't always easy. There will be obstacles, there will be times we doubt. But that's where our practice really matters.
This is about perseverance, remembering the path is there even when we can't see it clearly.
Exactly. And remembering that we're not alone. We have the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the teachings, the community, the inspiration of those who've awakened. We have so much support.
It's about trusting the process, knowing that with consistent effort and a sincere heart, we will awaken.
And that awakening benefits everyone, not just us. Our actions have ripple effects, By cultivating wisdom and compassion, we make the world a better place.
It's not just about personal transformation, but about creating a more compassionate world for everyone.
Precisely. Our own awakening is tied to the awakening of all beings.
That's a beautiful thought. As we wrap up this deep dive into the art of living, I'm really struck by how practical and profound these teachings are. It's a path that anyone can walk, no matter who they are or what their life is like.
And this is just the beginning. It's like we've planted seeds that can now grow in our own lives.
So we encourage you to think about what we've discussed, explore the book for yourself, and find ways to bring these teachings into your own unique journey.
May this deep dive inspire you to live with more wisdom, compassion, and courage, creating a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling for yourself and all beings.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of Buddhist wisdom. May your path be filled with joy, peace, and awakening.